Hey, everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. It is Friday, September 4th, 2020. Can't believe it. Time flies. This year is going by quickly, but you know what? It can't go by quickly enough. We are experiencing difficult days, tough times, the pandemic. We're months into it, and right off the top, I want to say I'm thinking of you, wishing you well, hoping everybody is okay out there. We are hunkering down in our home offices, and that's where I'm coming to you from, my home office here in Sudbury. And today I'm going to be talking to Jessie Cohn of Jessie Cohn Marketing. She is president of her own business. Jessie and I worked together years ago at Vistaprint. So yeah, we know each other. Our paths have crossed in this industry from time to time, especially back then when we worked together for 2 or 3 years or so. Jessie, really glad you're here today, joining me. Thanks for being here. And as I ask every guest right at the top of the show, please tell my audience, our audience, all about yourself, your background, and whatever else you want to say.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm psyched to be chatting with you, Bob. I love working with you. So, as Bob mentioned, as you mentioned, I, started off at Vistaprint. So that was a fun ride, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But kind of, the rundown of me, I've been a B2B marketer for the majority of my career. So I've worked at startups and growing businesses and agencies. So I've done a little bit of everything, which is interesting. I have some good stories to tell about that experience. So, my latest venture, I was always curious about running my own agency. And so the opportunity kind of presented itself last year. And, I've been thinking about it for a while. And so I launched January 2nd, creatively named Jessie Cohn Marketing.
That's good
Well,
branding, personal branding.
it's one of those things that, I love branding, and it's near branding is near and dear to my heart in particular. But when you're an individual and you've been around, Boston is a small marketing community, although a big city, and we have some huge companies here. We all kind of know each other and we've heard about each other. And so my thought was I could call my company something super creative, like, purple porcupine or something like that. But then you get into the trouble of like the SEO piece of it. So I said, you know what? I've built up so much credibility, hopefully around my own name. Why not just call it after myself? And that way if you Google me, I come up. So
Jessie,
that was,
I think that's wicked smart, and I can relate. As you can see back here, the sign, Bob Cargill's Marketing Show.
yeah.
You know, back in the 90s, long time ago. I've been around a long time. I had my own business for 7 years. It was
Uh-huh.
Cargill Creative. Now I'm just going by my name, Bob Cargill. So I applaud you and say, yes, brand yourself, get your name out there, and it is out there. I see you online all the time, and I love that you started your own business. I think of how we met, and I didn't realize you were just starting your career then, because you were seemed like you were well into things smoothly, professionally, and that, I guess, was at the beginning of your career when we worked together at Vistaprint.
Yeah, so when we were at Vistaprint, it was before I started before they went public. I think and I started off in their sales and service department, actually. They didn't have a call center yet. They were building that up. There were a couple other people who started with me, and we were doing inside sales in their creative services. And that was really, really looking back, it was a neat experience in particular. So to be able, I think every marketer should have an opportunity to do sales, whether it's inside sales or work on commission or do something, because you realize kind of the nuance of that industry, and it makes you a better marketer, and it eliminates the fear. Like, I'll talk to anybody. I know you'll do the same thing,
Yeah.
but as a marketer, it's really important for us to be able to understand the intricacies of the sales process. And I had that opportunity at Vistaprint really early on. So that was cool. And then a couple years in, I moved up out of that department into what was called the content team. So content at Vistaprint at the time was it was the creative team that was designing the template. So all of the business card designs. And I know at that point, when I started my particular team, I was a project manager. There were 6 designers. And by the time I left, there were 40. And I know that's when you and I met, and the expansion of that rapid growth through Vistaprint post, I want to say it was '06 to '08.
Right around there. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
when.
date ourselves. So
Yep. Yeah, but you're not dating, I'm dating myself, telling you, admitting that that was like my 15th job out of college, whereas it might only been your first or second or
I had a
third.
few internships. Like I said,
But
I've been working since I was 18. So
you were early in your career then, and
it's
and
true.
I was like 20, 25 years in, and now I'm 35 plus years in. But
You still look great, Bob.
thank you, Jesse. Thank you for saying that. But yeah, I felt like we were peers there, and you were so top notch professional, and
Thank
I knew
you.
you were going places, and you have gone places, and now you have your own business, and that's real impressive. Thank you, by the way, if I didn't thank you already, for being on the show today. I'm really
My
it's a
pleasure.
pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. How has so Jesse Co-Marketing, you know, we go from Vistaprint 10, 12 years ago to now Jesse Co-Marketing, your own business, and you're still very early in your career, lots in front of you. What is your plan with Jesse Co-Marketing? Where do you want to take it? I guess, what are you doing also at Jesse Co-Marketing?
Sure. So the pandemic throws, I'm not going to call it a wrench. It throws, let's call it some donuts, because donuts look delicious and taste delicious, but they also can not be good for you either. So we're going to throw some donuts at me, so you have to take a pivot and a left turn and a right turn. So, I think what I'm doing now, which is not to say what I could be doing in the future, but what I've been doing. So I do a lot of, with my background in leading marketing teams, I do a lot of marketing strategy. And so, people will say, well, what is that? Like, what does that really mean? And so what I specialize in is pairing strategic marketing plans with actionable tactics. So being able to take um, talking to a marketing team and understanding their goals, and then being able to actually tell them how to get there. I've been on the other end where I've hired consultants and I've worked with some great people, but I've also worked with people who say, okay, here's the plan. I built it for you. You paid for it. Good luck. I'm like, no. Wait a minute. How do I do this? Like, where do I spend the money? How do I do this smartly? So I wanted to be able to make sure that the clients that I'm working with, I can fill that gap for them. So being able to actually say, here's how you do it. Here's the technology options. Here's the one that I would recommend. Or I'm not really sure what we do. I know a specialist. Let's bring them in and have that conversation. So it's really playing that, the word fractional CMO or fractional marketing
Mm-hmm.
leadership, whatever you want to call it. So that role for a lot of people. And so I work with a lot of agencies. A lot of my vendors work with me too, because, this type of role can be full-time, but also can be brought in on a project basis. So that's I do a lot of that, but also, with COVID, we all had to, they had to, they threw some donuts at me, so I had to pivot. And so I do a lot with small local businesses too. So same concept, but on a much smaller scale.
I I think
Yeah.
that's what you're doing is filling a need, like you say, that fractional CMO, almost their marketing department outsourced, their marketing activities outsourced to you, and in the roadmap, the blueprint perhaps, and then also, as you say, not just strategy, but it sounds like you're helping people find the, say, resources, human resources, people and teams to actually do what they need to do as well in terms of what you recommend. Maybe they have those people inside, but I'm guessing you also recommend freelancers and
Yeah.
tacticians as well.
It depends. I mean, so again, my ideal client, if I'm looking at target audiences, there are people who don't have marketing teams or don't have leadership in place, and I'd be curious in your thoughts on this too. With the pandemic, we've seen such a big shift of how marketing has approached it. I mean, marketing is a cost center within a lot of organizations. And so, when sales deviate from the plan, how do you compensate internally from a cost perspective? Marketing is naturally the first place where people start cutting.
I agree.
It's the
Unfortunately,
nature of the
yep.
beast. So
No, we tend to be overlooked, and it's ironic because you yourself mentioned the experience in sales at Vistaprint and how important that is. And having had my own business, I've done some selling. I'm doing some selling, now in terms of bringing in my own clients. Marketing is dovetails with sales or vice versa. You can't, to me, have one without the other. So it is ironic they tend to cut marketing or think it's a luxury when, marketing leads to sales. And some may say it's almost one in the same.
Well, and it's become even, I would say probably 10 years ago, there was this whole mantra around marketing sales, and there's always this friction. Like, I would literally walk around the office, the last two jobs that I've had, and say, look, if sales doesn't sell, we don't have jobs. We have to figure out how to help them do it better. They may
Yes.
not be, there may be ways that we're like, let's tweak your language here a little bit, or that's not totally right. Let's shift it. But we have to figure out how to work together. And so, it's the same with the finance team, because you're going to be in there constantly think, okay, I'm spending some more money. I'm spending some more money. But from a sales perspective, it's critically important to be aligned or have a healthy discourse around how to be able to do it better. It's not this like, screw sales. We're not going to, they're not doing it right. We're not doing, like, that's not how this needs to work, moving now and moving forward. I think the pandemic has shown that in a lot of cases too. So
No, I think so it's sad and ironic, and there are other words to describe the fact that marketing can be overlooked and cut from budgets. At the same time, people like you and I may have even more opportunities because the full-time people aren't getting the jobs or even the part-time at these bigger companies or small companies, like you said. So they are looking to outsource and hire freelancers and contractors. And with the pandemic, because sales are generally down across the board, you'd think, and I'm seeing quite a bit of this, frankly, they're realizing that, hey, we got to market even more, or we have to market differently. And for me, because I specialize in social media and online communications, digital communications, they're coming to me saying, how do we do this? How do we even, social media 101, how do we do the basics? So I personally provide some strategy like you do, but I think, I do a lot of the actual hands-on work. They'll say, can you manage our Twitter account or all of our social media accounts, or what should the cadence be, or what kind of content can we create? And that's the kind of thing I do. So I have done, like you, some strategy and some plans, but I tend to be more on the hands-on, roll up your sleeves. Yeah, and that's what I did at Vistaprint. I mean, I was a senior copywriter there. I managed a lot of people, but we got the work done, and you were more overseeing or helping us to organize and schedule. So I think you do have the higher level perspective. You had it then. I know that. So I'm sure you are even obviously better and more experienced now than you were then, in terms of taking the whole piece, all the pieces, and putting them together into one perfect picture.
Yeah, for me, that's kind of like running my own agency. And again, it's just me and my chief dog officer over here on the floor.
Nellie, right?
Yep. So
and I have Lucy.
Yep.
Lucy's
Our
behind
lovely
this.
ladies.
Yeah. Is Nellie in that room with you, or?
She is usually, so here's the running joke is she used to come to the office with me too. She snores. She's a rescue. She's a senior lady. She's a pit mastiff mix, but she snores so loud. And so though I have the earphones and like people can hear her, I'm like, I have to apologize in advance. My dog's sleeping on the floor. She's a little mini little B2B marketing celebrity, I like to say.
I've seen Nellie on Instagram, and
she shows up everywhere.
Yes, and you may have seen Lucy on Instagram from time to time. So, Lucy, I hope behaves behind that door. She usually does, unless a delivery person comes that she doesn't recognize, or someone walks by that she doesn't recognize. She might start barking.
I think it's fun. Like, I think that's part of, again, trying to put silver linings around the situations going on in the world at the moment. The fact that we're all home. I love when kids pop up on video too. I've had a few funny phone calls with clients or prospective clients, and Nellie's barking her head off, or like, there's kids on this. I just think it's awesome. I think
you talk about the silver lining. I think we all have grown to appreciate the that we're all human beings, that
Mhm.
we're all being challenged in different ways now, and we're at home. We can see each other's home offices when
Faces.
we're on
Yeah,
Zoom, and yeah, we have family, and that could include dogs and cats and
it's
other
true.
pets, and yeah, I think we've learned to recognize that transparency and authenticity matters more than ever nowadays.
I think that's the human piece of it, you know, even with businesses and being able to, you know, connect at that level. Like we're all, I don't know about you, but like a lot of my clients and myself are all craving this like authentic human connection since we're not getting it. You know, we've been running too fast, I guess is the nice way I'm going to say that. And it just is wonderful to be able to have these situations where, you know, you have like three people on screen and you're like, oh, that's a different background. Where are you today? Oh, I'm doing this. Like it just creates this sense of like this, I'm half sentences, but like the idea of like community and being able to really, you know, I've redone my office. I'm in a living room in my house, to be perfectly honest with you. It's an addition in the back of the house. And I've redone kind of my situation in here 3 or 4 times. And every time I get on the phone with the client, they're like, oh, that's different. What do you got back there? I'm like, what do you think? Look at all, you know, what do you think's going on back here? And they're like, what's that picture of? And you have these like really nice human connection conversations that we're not getting when we're at the office. I mean, I'm not at an office, but I just think it's nice that we're all kind of in this shared situation is how I'll say
Yeah,
it.
no, we're all the cliche, all in this together, Jesse. And
Mhm.
I agree with you. So I miss greatly. When go to ordinarily tons of networking events, big
Uh-huh.
events. I speak at them, I network at them, and I miss all of that. The high fives, the hugs, the shaking hands, the business cards exchanging, talking, laughing, applauding. But silver lining, yes, I've had a million, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but Zoom calls, like this. It could be 10 people on the screen or a lot of one-on-ones like this. And I'm getting to know those people I do talk to better than ever, and appreciating them more than ever, because you're right. We moved, and generally we do, pandemic, uh, when we're not going through a pandemic, which is most of our lives, and hopefully never again after this.
Hopefully,
Um,
knock on wood.
yeah, hopefully we learn from this and
Yeah.
slow down and stop and smell the roses, and appreciate things like we're appreciating things now more, when we can get back to action. I used to commute into Boston all the time, and that hassle. I miss some of it, but at the same time, I think we're realizing we don't need it. We can
No.
work from home. We can spend more quality time with the people we do talk to. Look at you and I are talking like this, and have we ever, and it's in the 12 years that we've known each other, have we ever talked to each other one-on-one for more than 10 minutes?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, that's like kind of the best part about it is you're able to really have this dedicated time that with people that I wouldn't have been able to get to know as quickly and have become really great partners, referral partners, both ways. You know, I've been referring business out to people who don't fit my niche. Like I've sent 3 of them this morning because they're like, the other thing that I'm known for, I've been doing it as a side hustle for years. I built Squarespace websites. So it's something creatively that I love to do. And I know WordPress, I know Wix, I know some of these other platforms, and I don't touch WordPress. So I have somebody that I refer all my WordPress. I have 2 people actually that I refer all my WordPress people to, and I would never have met her. She and I did a full video series. Like it's so, we were talking about this the other day. Like she's become, not only like a referral partner, but a real like colleague and partner. And like there's an opportunity to build and do projects. And we would never have gotten to know each other if this hadn't, this pandemic hadn't happened. So, adding to that silver lining a little bit more. So,
No, absolutely. My blog, which I started in 2004, a long time ago. When I worked at Vistaprint, I was clamoring to get more into social media that long ago, and fortunately now I am doing tons of it. But my blog is on WordPress, and I love WordPress, and I've gotten to know WordPress quite well myself. But I still have to outsource some
mhm.
of the design and certainly the coding, and to know that you don't do the WordPress, you do everything else. It
I
sounds
got
like,
some peeps for you.
but you get some peeps. Yeah. So that's good to know. I mean, I have peeps as well, and then we can exchange peeps, combine networks, and we become even more
Certainly.
powerful. Let me drill down a little, Jesse. I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I want to get specific. Social media, because I do that a lot myself, you know that. So I'm curious how much you use social media, either for yourself or for your clients, and regardless of how much you use it, I'm curious how it works for you, and what you do with it specifically, even if it's not a ton.
Sure. So social media is an interesting animal, again, because I'm serving two audiences. My ideal clients really sit in two buckets that don't necessarily always overlap, which is a weird situation to be in, but I love them both and they're both lucrative, so why not? So you have your B2B business world, and then my local business world, I guess is how I'll describe them. And then there's me personally is the third one. So I'll start there because that's an easy one to answer. From a social media perspective, I mean, I have a Facebook page, I have LinkedIn, I have a Twitter account. I actually have 3 Instagram accounts. And I'll share a little secret with you because one isn't totally public yet, but it's a fun one, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. So, from an Instagram perspective, I have a personal one that's dog focused. I needed a place, the way I thought about it was I needed a place. It's a passion of mine. I won't get on my soapbox, but the idea of the breed specific discrimination and so on and so forth. So I just wanted a place to be able to share positive influential photos of my dog selfishly that weren't like invasive. People can choose to look at them. And I didn't want to do it on Facebook. So that's one Instagram. Then I have a business one for me. Obviously, that one's pretty straightforward. The third one is called Lots of Tacos. I have a friend who lives in Texas, and we both are obsessed with tacos. And we just wanted a fun project to focus on during the pandemic. And she's like, I was like, let's start a taco Instagram account and see if we can get sponsored. She's like, all right. We have 26 followers. It's been live for like a week or two. We're working on a website. Yeah, we're working on a website, working on some branding for it. So
Look at you.
LOTS 0 tacos, lots of tacos. We're taking submissions. So it's just, who doesn't love a good taco, man?
I
They're
love
just
tacos.
delicious.
I don't have them hardly ever, but I love them. I love Mexican food.
Me too.
So quick digression.
Yeah.
Any taco recommendations locally or?
So, I mean, it's
Put you on
interesting.
the spot.
I know. So I cook a lot of them at home. So I love, for those of us who don't know me, who are listening, I love food. I love to cook. I have a big background in cooking. I've worked for cooking websites. I'm like obsessed. So locally, I'm trying to think the best tacos aside from my own kitchen. There's a couple of places on Marlboro. Is it Zarapes in Marlboro Center?
Yeah, I think
It's pretty good.
yeah.
I just saw somebody else post one and I don't remember the name of it. I'll look it up and send it to you, that someone was like, these are like the best tacos I've had in a long time.
Interesting. I do love tacos. I think of Taco Bell. That's easy to think of. They might be a good potential sponsor for
Don't worry, I've already tagged them. And so my friend who does it with me is in Austin, Texas, and that's the breakfast taco capital of the world. So, it's just fun. We're hoping, we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed.
That is cool. That is something different. And I love, I love Instagram. I use it a lot. I have my own business account, but I share a ton of personal stuff on that account as well. But Instagram to me is very easy to use, and it's fun, and you see all the pictures and the videos. I do a ton of videos.
Yep.
Occasionally I share pictures of my dog. Lots of times I do selfies with my wife and I when we go out into Boston and walk around. I miss the group selfies. I take a ton of group selfies normally. And you know what I'm doing? I am curating all my, during the pandemic, I've been curating all my group selfies. I mean, I'm telling you, it's well over 100. It might be several hundred. I'm serious. I have so many group selfies, and I want to do something with it. some of them may be in the book I'm writing.
Oh,
Yeah, I've written a first draft, Jesse. I don't know if you know. That
I knew
includes
you were
my time.
talking about it when I saw
Yeah,
you last
no, the
year. Yeah.
first draft is written 70,000 words,
Wow,
and
congratulations.
all the pictures. If you could see the rest of this room over here, I've been going through old files and taking pictures of some of the work I've done, some of the, and going back many years, it's hard to find pictures of me and my colleagues, and it's called tentatively 20 Jobs, 20 Lessons, and it's literally from 1983 when I started as a copywriter at RCA Direct Marketing up until now. And
Wow.
I'm not even going to share, you shared a little secret. I have actually several secrets in this book, about my personal life and also a little bit professionally. I try to get, it's a memoir, to be honest with you. It's a memoir of every job I've had, what I've learned, and, mostly business, but there are a few personal things I share in there, in terms of my ambition way back when, and some of my disappointments over the course of my career, and some of what I still hope happens. I like to believe my best years are still ahead of me.
I like to believe that's, I think after this pandemic, it's going to be a different world, and I think it'll be a lot more pleasant, hopefully. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but I think at least, some of the way that we choose to work together, and the way that we kind of hinted around it earlier, but the way that we value work and life, the balance there is going to
Yes.
hopefully shift. I think we've all been, it's leading an exhausting life is, and hopefully it'll be, I've even heard, I don't remember who I was talking to, but it was literally like, you're making a decision about, historically it's like, oh, I'll go to this networking event, or I'll fill my schedule up at nighttime. And now you're making the decision, do I go to that networking Zoom call, or do I spend a couple extra minutes like cooking dinner with my kids?
Mm-hmm.
People are choosing the cooking dinner piece of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really interesting, it'll be really, hopefully it heads in the right direction. And I hope to kind of see this shift. And to your point, the best years hopefully are,
Ahead of
headed,
us all.
yeah, that's,
Yes. Jesse, you're touching on something that is very emotional to me, because in writing this book, if my wife were here, she would concur 110%, I'm sure. I'm realizing how painful, yes, a lot of what I've done has been, and how challenging the work world. I mean, I look at my schedules. I mean, even when you and I work together,
yeah, it was crazy.
how many meetings, how much we pack into a day. I mean, I have a list of 50 things I need to do this day, calls, meetings, things I had to write, travel, clients. It goes on and on. And I know that's business, and I'm a very competitive, driven, like you. I know you are. You're running your own business, so you know what you're
There's
doing. You're
something in there.
ambitious. You're hard working. But yeah, we all need to, step back, and that's what this pandemic has forced on us, and take a few breaths and realize what's important. And hopefully, yes, after post pandemic, hopefully there's a better work-life balance, and there's a different definition for success, maybe.
Certainly. I mean, it's an interesting, when I went out, and we're jumping all over this place, so I'm going to go in another
Yeah, that's
right turn
okay.
here. One of the things I just remember, and I think I posted, I'm pretty prolific on LinkedIn regularly. That's kind of from a business perspective,
I
that's
see
my
you there a
platform.
lot. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm glad you
of
bring up
choice.
LinkedIn. Yes.
Yeah. So Facebook is a whole nother animal, and I'm not even going to touch it because that is a whole separate hour of conversation. But thinking about LinkedIn in particular, I think I posted, it might have been a couple weeks ago, and not to, podcasts are evergreen in a lot of ways, but I think about my marketing career in particular. And I just remember distinctly when I was in college, I was sitting in a car with a buddy of mine, and I think he was a philosophy major, go figure. And I was an art major, but I had a minor in business, knowing that I'd probably end up in some sort of agency management. I always love creative stuff. I love art, so on and so forth. He just looked at me and said, why do you want to go, like, his perception of marketing was sales. He's like, why do you want to sell stuff to people? Obviously, he used different words there. And I was like, Oh, no, I don't want to sell stuff to people. It's not what I want to do. I want to help raise awareness for things that I'm passionate about, is how I think about it. And so the opportunity of building my own business, I sought out brands that have purpose. And I think this pandemic is even going to shift that further. It's something that, like, again, one of the reasons I love working with smaller local businesses is, although they may be selling things, there's a purpose. You're helping somebody build their dream, and that is amazing. And, the agency that I work regularly with is a purpose-driven branding agency, to give Katie Burkhardt a shout out, Matter 7, check them out. Um, shameless plug on my part.
No, I'm writing this
But,
down. And this
but
is
even,
when we share this, you can give them a plug,
oh,
say
good.
that you gave them a plug in this
So even like
conversation.
these larger B2B companies, I'm seeing these mission driven messages crop up, even if it's not ingrained in the culture yet. I'm seeing this huge shift in the market around
Yes.
businesses that are bringing up their sustainability code to the front. They're bringing up their social impact statements. They're encouraging, cultural shifts within the
Yes.
organization to give back, and mentorship. It's like leadership team goals are shifting to include volunteering and mentoring. That, like, I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it. Like, that to me is awesome, and that's what I wanted to do. And those are the types of companies I want to work with, is people who understand, how to give back. Like, on a personal note, a number of years ago, I love makeup. I don't know if you can relate, to each their own, but skincare and home care products and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. We
Mm-hmm.
made a commitment in our house to shift everything over to be cruelty free, and truly be cruelty free. So doing the research, understanding the larger corporations that are involved, what the laws and stuff like that. Again, I won't get on my soapbox, but like making those decisions and really stick buying it, and making the purchase decisions that support that, and then seeking out other like-minded people who choose to kind of live in that
Mm-hmm.
positive influence, give back type of world. I know that was my spiel.
No, that's a great
Sorry.
spiel. Listen, I often do clips from these long conversations, and that would be a great clip to highlight Jesse Cohn and Jesse Cohn Marketing, because I wrote down, and I can always go back and listen to this again and excerpt more, but help raise awareness of things I'm passionate about, and not necessarily inclined towards sales, but inclined towards helping businesses grow, and meaningful businesses, and businesses that help people, not just sell things. And trust me, I am, of the same cloth, of the same ilk, Jesse. And I think you know that. And that's why we used to talk all the time at Vista.
Yeah,
Our occasional water cooler talk, chit chat, because we are of the same ilk. I love this time in marketing, and I will say that before the pandemic, but the pandemic, yes, has reinforced it even more so. I think we are becoming more aware of our role in society as marketers, as business people. Inclusion and diversity also obviously has come to the surface. Racism has reared its ugly head in the last 6 months, along with the pandemic, and so companies are working on statements and strategies and plans and activities to support Black Lives Matter, inclusion, diversity, in addition to everything else you were mentioning. It's
certainly.
a good time for us to again reflect and recalibrate. The other thing I wanted to say, I tie almost everything back to social media. This is why I like social media, for all the reasons you were talking about, that you like marketing, and which I agree with, and share those same, that same passion. Social media is transparent, it's authentic, and it's not direct, heavy selling, but it does lead to sales. So I always tell my clients, use social media to put a face on your brand, and a smile on your face, and be human. And
Yes.
people do business with people.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, from the rooftop, totally. I think,
Yeah.
social, it's one of the things that I think B2B marketing has struggled with over the years is how do you measure brand awareness and how do you measure brand sentiment? And what does that look like? And again, social media is an interesting animal in that, you know, you can actually apply metrics. Maybe sentiment is a hard one, but engagement at least.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at, you know, not necessarily comments, but combining all of those data points together to be able to look at trend lines in terms of interactions and increase followers and increase engagements and stuff like that. So even, you know, I just remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember watching the Super Bowl. And again, I am a Patriots fan. So it was one of our Super Bowls.
Yes, one of
I'll
our
say
many.
that. But I just remember when, I don't know if it was ours, but remember the blackout in the stadium?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
And
I think I know what you're going to
Oreo,
say. Oreos jumped
I like
on
that's
that.
like that was awesome. Like talk
Yes.
about a brand response and talk about the power of social media and
Yeah.
like their ability, like I'm sure that wasn't planned. There was another one, Wendy's is another one that absolutely cracks me up. If nobody follows them, they
They're
were
very funny and very
roasting.
witty. Yes.
Oh my God, hysterical on Twitter to be able to roast. And even just like uh, again, another one. So Stephen King, not being a brand, but he is a brand in a lot of ways.
Yes.
You know, hysterical on Twitter. And
I agree.
I'll leave the political side out of it, but even just the way that he talks about his dog is so funny.
Yep.
So
No, I've seen him. He's very conspicuous in his presence on
yeah,
Twitter. Stephen King is. Yeah. Politics aside, um, you know, our president uses Twitter obviously
mm-hmm.
repetitively, and I don't like what he says. I'll be honest. Didn't vote for him, and I'm a
I'm there with
registered
you.
Democrat. Yeah. We can
Mm-hmm.
share. We can get a little
I know.
political.
I didn't know who your listeners were.
No. It's okay. Whoever they are, I want them to know how I vote, and I vote Democrat, and get out the vote this year
Yes,
in
please.
November. But so I have. I say all that because I'm going to say something semi positive about how he communicates, and that is the fact he uses Twitter, and I think so I tell any business or brand, he is conspicuous in his presence on Twitter. And any brand or business or person can do the same thing, hopefully for good, and say positive things and good things. But imagine how powerful that would be if we had a million other people offsetting some of that negativity by saying positive things and getting the positive word out. And that's possible. Anybody can get on Twitter and tweet 100 times and say some good things, and that'll push down the negativity.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so my new obsession again, I love TikTok. I'm
I
just gonna put it
used
out there.
TikTok recently. No,
I don't.
TikTok's very cool.
I've played with it. I've seen some. There's a couple of sales leaders that I've seen giving away tips and tricks and stuff like that on TikTok very, very successfully. And it's interesting because what you see on TikTok is, and I've seen stories, and I'm sure it happens in other social media channels too. But the power of the hashtag, and so
Yep.
there were those get-togethers. Again, I don't remember exactly where this was, but it was a Trump event, and to
Oh, I
to
know what you're going to say. Yep.
expand his message, there was the
Yes.
power of the hashtag that be able to kind of push it down and change the rhetoric and change the sentiment on there too. So there's a really interesting way to be able to leverage some of these platforms. Again, barring the right target audience and done
Jesse,
in a way that's smart.
I
So,
can tell you specifically.
oh, good.
So a couple of things, about, again, we've
We've
already,
totally deviated. So,
we've already gone there, and there's no walking this back. When I did, I do a lot of videos, and when he was running for president, I did a video where I said, watch out, everybody, that this man knows how to use social media, knows how to communicate, or his team does, and that helped him get elected. The irony here now, because I know what happened on TikTok, is a lot of other people know social media
mhm,
too. And what the TikTok people did, because I watched this video of someone on TikTok, it was for one of his events.
mhm.
They rallied each other to buy tickets to one of his events so that it appeared because anybody could do this. This is what I read. So don't quote me on this, but this is what I read. Anybody could buy tickets, I get tickets, they were free. And that made it appear that it was sold out. So the people who really wanted to go couldn't get tickets. So that
Oh, that's interesting.
suppressed the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was TikTok rallied. The upshot of all this is using social media. Yeah, there's people on the left, there's people on the right. The people obviously who did and are going to vote for Trump. And there are people who like myself and sounds like you too are going to vote for Biden.
Yep.
But the point is, social media can be used for good or bad. Let's use it for good. And frankly, that could be. I never felt that it could be a Republican or a Democrat. Just use it for good, and it's powerful.
Yeah, here's a flip side, to take the politics out of it. So the idea of building community is, again, increasingly important around here too. So being able to leverage, a hashtag or awareness or making connections. So let's say you have some sort of, disease, and you are looking for other people with a similar disease. I, of course, can't think of anything off the top of my head as I'm talking about it.
Well, children's cancer, because I'll have an example for you in a minute. Yeah. Go ahead.
So the idea of being able to meet other people who are using that hashtag all over the world is incredible. But also from a branding perspective, if you're a business and you make medical devices or you provide an app that helps track, or you have some sort of service that you're providing to that particular subset of people with that disease, it allows you to be able to tap into that community naturally and not forcefully. And you don't have to own the conversation, which is where brands make the biggest mistake in a lot of ways, is go where your audience already exists and be able to say, you can see what people are asking. You can see what people are saying. You can look for people who might be able to sit on like a group, a focus group is the word I'm looking for.
Advisors, board
really
members.
Positive brand interaction there to be able to influence and help people, get better, especially if it's a disease or even, with all the stuff going on in the world. Did you see an example for that one?
Yes. So the example, I brought up children's cancer because I'm running I could pack a bunch of stories here, but I'll try to be succinct. I'm running the virtual Boston Marathon next week, planning on doing it Monday for Christopher's Haven. Christopher's Haven is a nonprofit in Boston, provide housing for families whose kids have cancer, and they're in Boston getting treatment. They stay at Christopher's Haven while the kids are going to get the treatment in the Boston hospitals. Pediatric cancer might be a hashtag. Cancer might be a hashtag. Fundraising might be a hashtag. That's how Christopher's Haven would get in the conversation and how people would find them. And when I'm fundraising for them, I might use those hashtags. Again, pediatric cancer or children with cancer. So quick segue to hashtags. The virtual Boston Marathon or Boston Marathon virtual experience, they're using the hashtag Finish Strong. And I have a column on my tweet deck that I watch, and anyone who uses Finish Strong, a lot of them are people who are running the virtual Boston Marathon all over the world. And it's really cool to watch that conversation. Now, if I'm, say, a running shoe or a Fitbit or a socks.
Energy bar.
Yeah, energy bar. Finish Strong is a hashtag you want to be following. You want to get into those conversations. So there's an example on Twitter.
So you said you use TweetDeck. This is a question I get asked literally every day. What technology do you use to manage your social media? So, and again, I use my phone. I'm not a best in class example of it, but I recommend Hootsuite.
Yes, Hootsuite's awesome. Yes.
But what do you use? And
I love that you asked me that question. Thank you. No, so it depends on my client. Hootsuite absolutely is one of the tools in my toolbox. Buffer is one I use probably every day for myself. Okay, I use Buffer and Schedule, and I use the free Buffer tool. I also use a tool called Feedly, which aggregates content that I want to see based on topics. So it might be social media, it might be marketing, it might have something to do with my client. And then I can instantly tweet that article after I've read it quickly to my audience.
Oh,
TweetDeck is an awesome tool that I probably have, I'm not exaggerating, 40 or 50 columns. I put clients in columns, I put my list in columns, I could put you in a column,
mhm.
I could put any hashtag in a column. That's how I monitor Twitter. If I can, for my clients, I like to do my posting natively. If I'm have so because why
And when you
you
say natively, you mean within the tech itself, not
manually right
through
within the
the
channel,
yeah, yeah.
because that will get you the biggest bang for your buck if you
Huh.
can do it manually natively. You know, do I know this for a fact? Not necessarily. I know it from experience,
Gotcha.
and I know it from word of mouth, meaning if you use a third party tool, there are people that say it will not get as much reach and engagement
Hmm,
versus doing it natively. So I
interesting.
try to do it natively. I can't say that for a fact, but I can say I have seen that. I also automate a lot of my content though, because you can't possibly, let's say you're tweeting 20 times a day for a client. And in the past, I've done something like that, Jesse,
Yeah.
almost once an hour. Yeah, I've used, when I worked at Overdrive, we had a proprietary tool. I've also used Sprinkler. I'm trying to think of other tools I've used. Um, you know, there are so many of them out
Hmm.
there. I just did a Twitter chat for Agora Pulse, and I know they have a tool. A lot of them are very similar. Once you've used one, you can pretty easily use the others.
And Feedly, sorry, I'm jumping around because we didn't mention this. I run a Facebook group called Actionable Marketing that gives tips and tricks out. I try and post 2 to 3 times a week. Um, and I'm like, they always ask me, what social media do you use? How often do you post? This is like a constant question. And so a Feedly, does it allow you to find information about a particular, like you could set up,
Yes,
walk me through it for another second.
yes.
Sorry.
So Feedly will not do the. It's not a
It
social
won't post
media.
it for you,
No,
but
it will
it'll
not post
find
it for you.
relevant stuff on a particular topic.
Absolutely.
Cool. Other
Feedly,
people's content, baby. The power of other people's
third
content.
party content, Jesse. And I
Yeah.
will say so also I was saying manually in um, in the apps themselves, in the channels themselves. You can schedule. You can schedule on Facebook and you
Yeah.
can schedule
Cool.
on Twitter. You don't have to use a third-party tool. I say try to do as much as you can manually, natively, but schedule quite a bit because you want to. So my personal channels are an example. I always have content going out on Twitter on a regular basis. I try to post on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm
Hmm.
doing it for a client once, sometimes even twice a day, because the organic reach is down so low now, Jesse. People
Hmm.
aren't seeing your content. We're
Hmm.
talking like 1%, 2% organic reach.
Ugh.
Yeah, so that's a terrible, to be honest with you, um, um, percentage, terribly low percentage of people organically who are seeing your content. So you got to be posting regularly. And if you're a big business or brand, ideally you're paying to promote some of this content.
Hmm.
Yeah, we are going all over the place. I'm
I
going to ask
know.
you a few more questions, then we're going to,
Sure.
believe it or not, we're, you know, close to, I don't know, 50, 55 minutes. I'm not watching the clock that closely, but we can go on. Any businesses and brands that you haven't mentioned that you want to talk about that do great advertising, great marketing, great on social media? You've mentioned a bunch. I agree with you on Wendy's and I forget who else you
Oreo.
mentioned. Oreo. Yeah, newsjacking, that is when they jump into the
Yes.
conversation.
It's
Any others?
killer.
Anything current that you want to talk about?
Um, I was gonna say I've been in my little hole of my world with clients. I mean, the person I follow the most from a B2B perspective, I mean, Scott Brinker and his MarTech news and updates.
Yep.
If you're not following him, you're missing out. He's
Yep.
killer. The biggest thing that I've seen crop up in the past couple of days, and maybe I'm a little bit late to the train or I'm early, don't know. The no code is a hot buzzword at the moment. So the no code technologies being, you know, tech that you and I just talked about, but
Yes.
technology that you can implement and use in building your tech stack within your business that doesn't involve any coding. So, you know, for example, I run my business through QuickBooks, Squarespace, Acuity. I use, I'm trying to think what else, Asana, for project management, EverSign, all of, you know, for document signatures and stuff like that. All of this
Hmm.
stuff is easy. You sign up and it goes. MailChimp,
Yep.
Flowdesk, all these things. So all of those are considered no code. There's no coding that you need to do to be able to set any of this stuff up. So it's not necessarily a brand that we need to follow, but I feel like this is going to be, from a marketing technology standpoint, something that everyone should have on their radars.
It's a thing. No
It is a
code.
thing.
And no, I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm not, totally immersed in all the technology. I use everything I need to for social media. For AMA Boston, we use Basecamp.
Mhm.
I had a client and this
No
spring,
code.
what's that?
It's no code. Basecamp,
Yeah,
no coding. So
Microsoft
Trello,
Teams.
yeah,
Um,
Slack.
yeah, I'm trying to think what else I use. WordPress, I told you, with my blog.
I don't know
Um,
if WordPress falls into that because sometimes you do need coding.
there is some coding
So I don't,
involved.
again, I've just kind of, this thing has popped on my radar in the past couple of days, so I'm diving into it a little bit more. But even like Webflow, which is a new web, I haven't, again, it's a competitor to Wix and Squarespace and all that stuff, since this is the world that I live in frequently. Um,
I,
that's an interesting one.
I use Adobe Spark sometimes for my
Okay.
videos.
Yeah,
I use, I'm looking at my phone literally right now,
I know, right?
because I use a lot of simple apps, Video Shop and
Uh-huh.
UCut. These are,
Canva,
what's that?
Canva.
Canva is a good one. Canva, I haven't
Mm-hmm.
used it in a while, but I've used Canva plenty of times. Um, so I wanted to mention a few brands or something,
Yeah.
at least one more brand that is related to what we've been talking about, hashtags. Runkeeper. So Runkeeper is an app that,
Oh, I've heard of that one.
yeah, fitness app,
Yeah.
and they did something, or they do something, that I've used all summer, and it's just called Run to Feel hashtag.
Huh.
And I used it July and August, and it's a challenge. And I didn't see any reward or award given for using the hashtag. So they got a lot of free promotion from me and probably hundreds, thousands, millions others. I don't know how many.
Are
But
they
the
owned
idea,
by Under Armour? Are they part of like the?
ASICs now.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say My Fitness Pal is the other one, and then there's Map. Maybe it's Map My Run.
Yeah,
Not
there's a bunch of
sure.
them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
But challenges, and if you use TikTok, you probably see it. A challenge, a brand or a business can challenge its audience to do something. They create a
Oh, the
hashtag.
gamification.
Yeah, it gets
Mm-hmm.
them engaged. It gets them
Mm-hmm.
involved. So that's something else I wanted to mention. Um, what do you think about the future of marketing and social
Ooh.
media, Jesse? Where are you going to be in 10 years?
I mean, sitting on an island, hopefully
Eh,
drinking a cocktail, who knows? No, but I mean, 10 years is a long time. I actually don't know if I could tell you where I think it's going to be in 10 years. I feel like 5 years from now, it all depends on a couple of things. Let's say the election will have a big effect on things, how we treat this pandemic, and what kind of what this virus ends up, how this affects us is going to have an effect on everything. And so I don't think we're going to go back to the way things were. I hope we don't, because it obviously was working but wasn't working. I think you're going to see, what's been really interesting to watch is the rise of influencers and I don't, what's the opposite of rise? The decrease of importance,
Decline. Yeah.
yeah, decline of celebrity. And how that affects marketing in particular is you're going to, the influencer has become the new celebrity, and that whole process is going to transform again. But I think that's going to be, you're going to have these community leaders, whatever that looks like, are going to be these brand influencers promoting and creating and building. you know, there's going to be 8 more social media channels that we haven't even thought of yet that's going to come out. I know again, Apple's going to come out with some new tech that we're going to go, we got to figure out how to, build to be able to promote on that. And I think the last piece of it is retargeting is a big one. So the idea of, thinking back to, I don't remember when Minority Report came out, but these retargeting for good is going to be
Yes.
even more important. And
Yes.
so people, a lot of people will call, like my parents will call and be like, this ad's following me around. I was on the website 2 days ago. I was like, so like, wouldn't you rather get something that's relevant to you?
Exactly.
Something that's like, I don't know, something completely non-related. So I think digital media, digital ads, retargeting, I think that's something that we need to focus on in the next couple of years, amongst all the other stuff that we talked about. But,
yeah, no,
how
I
B2B brands do it. That's the other piece of it.
I love that you are focusing on, doing well by doing good, and interesting. I find how much you've emphasized, and I do agree with you 110%. I just hope the rest of the world does, because I'm not so sure everybody is learning their lesson, frankly, and seeing things the way you and I see things. But I hope things do change for the better, and that we come out of this pandemic doing business differently, and realizing that things were broken. I have to, say that's how I feel bluntly. And let's fix it, and let's use this time to plan for an even better future.
I think it's going to drive innovation. I mean, look at the challenges that people are having with school systems.
Yes.
We have to figure out how to make that possible, and I don't know the answer, but I've seen, I have a lot of friends with young kids, and they just in family with young kids, and they don't, your wife's affected. Like, we need to figure out how to do this in a way that makes sense, and I think I'm hoping all of this sparks some really creative innovations to kind of push us into a healthier world.
I think it is. I think it's accelerated the pace of technology, made people realize that they need to know technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, please use technology, and you're saying it for good. Mm-hmm. Think because I did say, I think the president got to partially use technology and communications online to get elected. So more people have to realize the power of technology, and frankly, wise up and realize that we get what we, unfortunately, it is what it is. And if we don't learn, we're not going to be able to overcome what we think might not be good for us. So let's learn the power of technology and use it for good. Yep. Let's businesses invest their money, not necessarily just on making more money, but on changing the world for the better.
Well, I think their employees are going to call for it. People are going to make decisions. Yep. For me, it's making decisions, and I've seen it. I mean, you need a job, but sometimes if you have the opportunity to choose, pick a company that has a culture and a mission, and hold them accountable. Like, I'll give you a great example. Dell, I have a number of friends who work at different departments within Dell, and there is some really great mentorship programs within that organization, like really positive, including diversity and things like that. So, I mean, they're a huge company, and being able to empower their employees to be able to educate and teach and mentor, and I'll spare you the details, but like, that's awesome. Like, that's such a great thing, and they should be talking about it more,
Jesse, something you said, the employees are going to call for it. I agree with you. And it's the younger generation, frankly. I don't know if you heard my son, my oldest son, he was just calling me. He came by for a visit. He's 24. And it's people his age, and my other son, who's a senior at UMass, 21. They're not going to take it anymore.
Well, totally.
They're going to change this world for the better.
What's the movie? Is it the new version of 21 Jump Street? Is that it? I don't know. There was a new version. It was Seth Rogen. No, let me think. It was Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. and they have to pose as high schoolers.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it's 21
I
Jump
think I know the movie. Yeah, it's a movie.
and
Yeah, a
James
remake or
James
something.
Franco, Dave Franco plays like a high school kid, and like when they go back to high school, it was like, no, we're trying to save the earth, you were driving Priuses, and I was like, that's
Yep.
it,
Yep.
literally, like right there, that's what's happening, that's what needs to happen in such grander scale. So
Jesse, you and I are gonna help save the world
sounds
one way
good.
or another.
As long as we
I'm
get to take naps.
as long as we what?
As long as there's a nap involved at some point.
Plenty of naps. We've all learned that, again, based on the freedom and autonomy we've all had during this pandemic. Naps are
Certainly.
important.
Seriously.
How's that for a quote to help promote this episode? Naps are important.
Yeah, rest and relaxation, self-care, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Space.
Jesse, any last words before I wind this down? Anything else you want to say about marketing, social media, life in general, your business, etc.? Hey, tell people how to reach you, how to connect with you.
Well, you can Google me and I show up. So Jessie Cohen Marketing, jessiecohenmarketing.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Facebook profile. I'm on Instagram. I'm on the Twitter. I think I hit them all, right? That's all of them. So,
yeah,
Jessie
you're
at
everywhere.
jessiecohenmarketing.com. If you Google me, I show up. So I'm easy to find.
But you are awesome, Jesse.
You're
Ridiculously
awesome. Thanks for having
me. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today for this rambling, wide-ranging conversation.
Yeah, we definitely woo.
Love it. It's business, but it's also life and in general, and it's work-life balance, and that is how this conversation has gone. Folks, you've been listening to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show, and you might have been watching this. I hope you've been watching this. I record it via Zoom, share it all over social media, but also I use Podbean as my provider for the podcast, and then distribute it everywhere. And that includes Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. I have been talking to Jessie Cohen of Jessie Cohen Marketing. She is ridiculously awesome. We worked together about 12 years ago. She's gone on to stardom and fame, now running her own business. I highly recommend her as a human being and a business person. Jessie, thank you so much for today's conversation.
It was my pleasure, Bob. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Jessie. And thanks so much to anybody who's been watching and listening. This has been Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. Bob Cargill signing off, and I will see you again soon.